Everybody, Elizabeth from Silvernest Homeschooling, mama for homeschooling the younger two at this season, as the older two have already moved on to their things. And we are going to talk today about reverse engineering your homeschool. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term, reverse engineering, but the idea is that you start with the end product, the very end of what you're trying to accomplish, and then you set everything up backwards to meet that goal. So rather than starting with, what do I want my fourth grader to learn this month or this week, or what is the requirements? I mean, you do need to look at your state requirements, but rather than looking at just the academics, you're taking a step back, you're taking a breather, and you're thinking through what kind of character, what kind of education do you want your child to have when they leave your school? Whether it's the end of 1 year that they go back to the public school, whether they graduate from your home, whether they go to Running Start like some of our kids have done in their final 2 years. But when they leave your home as a grown-up adult, what is it that you yourself feel convicted that you want your kids to have in order to be wonderful grown-ups and adults in this world? I think sometimes we are so big on trying to hold on to our children in a protective, almost fearful way, that we aren't thinking through that these are going to be adults that are going to live on their own, managing their own finances, managing their own homes, managing their own things. And so for us, one of the things I have done very seriously is sat down, and that I'm in the process of continuing doing, because as you get older, you begin to recognize there are things that you wish you had learned yourself, or that you wish that you had taken the time to go back and put into some of your older kids as you watch them, navigate life in general. But for me, I know some of our core values, we wanted to see that evidence in our homeschool. We wanted to see the benchmarks, like how do you recognize that you've succeeded, right? Some of the challenge of homeschooling is that these are the only kids you have. This is the only childhood they have. This is the only education, if you've decided to homeschool all the way through, that they're going to get. And so you really need to think through some of these questions, I feel like, in order to plan wisely and not find yourself midstream down the road and going, oh, this isn't actually where I meant for this boat to go. So some of the things that we've reverse engineered in our home. Core value is the understanding of finances. So in order to do that, I have added in financial literacy into almost every single year of our school. Even the younger grades, we did a lot of like Play Store, you have a limited amount of money, that kind of thing. We've tried many, many different things over the year, but the end goal is the same. We want financially literate kids, and hopefully they will surpass us in their financial literacy. Like, I have a very limited understanding, besides the fact that, don't go into debt and some of the basics. But I know that we try to give our kids the edge above our pay grade. I'm trying to teach them so they understand even more than I understand, and that they aren't learning those things necessarily in college. Do they make mistakes in college? Of course, high school, all the things, yes. But I want to at least give them that edge. Another thing that is really important to me, that I'm seeing me get a little bit wobbly with, is that I want them to have the stick-to-itiveness. I want them, from the very beginning when we started, we set out our homeschool goals based on the fact that I assumed my kids would have to go to work regularly, or to get up and clean their house regularly, and to do things they didn't want to every single day. Because of that, we decided math is happening every day. English is happening every day. Every 5 days a week, school ends that we have school, they're going to be doing those things. That means that there is no I'm too tired days. There are no I don't feel like it days. That they are sick days. There are respite seasons. But when we have decided this is school, then we're going to do school, because we treat school like practice for our future job. And I don't want my kids to decide one day, well, I don't feel like going to work. I don't feel like taking care of my own children. I don't feel like cleaning the house. I mean, I understand, but we're not going to live by feelings. There are days where we skip cleaning the house in order to do something else, but we're also teaching priorities, right? So we do not skip school. We might adjust it slightly depending on season, mental, but in general, I want mental resilient children that look at a problem and say, I can overcome this, right? Same thing, we test our kids. That may be popular or unpopular, but I want to know how they're retaining information. That is one of the ways I am able to see if they're retaining information. Now, we do tell the kids that tests are a combination of how well I've taught them with how well they've retained the information. So we're not going to be afraid of tests. We're not going to put all of our power on tests. We're not going to say testing is the only way that we check and see if they're understanding. We do a lot of methods, but I am not afraid of giving them the math test at the end of every single chapter in kindergarten, first grade, all the way up through, because those are things that can measurably show without my assistance whether or not they're understanding the information. In fact, I just bought the tester for our 9th grade English curriculum that I forgot to get because it's one of the best ways for the child to look at the information in high school, the student, and say, oh, I thought I understood that information, but I don't. Therefore, I now have the opportunity to learn it. The other thing we have is we have deadlines, hard, fast deadlines with some consequences if we do not finish the deadlines. They're not mean consequences. They're things like, hey, you didn't get it done on time, so you get to do it now type consequences. But, if there was a track record of my children really messing around with the deadlines, it'd probably get harder and harder. But they really do, like all of them by now, they really know the expectations and they have risen to the expectations that I place on them. And so they all get their work done by Friday. Everything on the list that was required for that week needs to be done by Friday. If you don't finish your work by Friday, guess what you're doing on Saturday? And nobody wants to do school on Saturday. So we have to set these deadlines because, again, I'm expecting that they're going to go to work. And if they're going to go to work, their boss is going to give them deadlines depending on what kind of work they have. Even if they decide to have their own business, we own a couple businesses. You really need to be good at deadlines if you're running your own business. As the kids get older, in their early years, I have daily goals they have to finish. And then when they get older, now that I'm in middle school, high school, they have weekly goals. And I myself have monthly goals to make sure that everything is completed by end of this month at this level. Now, a couple of the kids are better at having a whole month to get everything done. Some of them still want me to make a daily checklist that they can choose to use as a guide for how much to get each day so that they're hitting their marks by Friday. But they themselves are responsible for their time and their ability to manage that time. I also am not a proponent of making sure, like letting them necessarily, I wanted to be the fun mom. I don't know if you watched some of my other videos, I so wanted to be the fun mom where everything was fun. In fact, I have about 250 to 300 games, board games, so that I could teach every single concept they wanted to learn in game form. And most of them said, no, thanks. Like, seriously, talk about disappointment on my side. Now, we do have some successful gaming times. Botany that we just finished was really successful. We played Planted. We played Cascade Evergreen, which was amazing. And we played Cellulose. So those are really great to go along with our botany unit. But the thing is that, like, real life isn't always fun either. And so, I mean, I got to clean that toilet every week, right? I mean, you got to scrub down that floor. You've got to clean up the spills and the issues and things. And if you don't get gas in that car, there are some real consequences. You'll put oil in that car, there are some even heavier consequences. And so, we are not proponents of everything gets to be fun all the time. I'm sorry. You get to find the fun in everything. You get to find the gratitude and the joy in everything. And if they start getting really cranky, I pull out a couple of books about kids that walk many, many, many miles to get an education, or we study how women, because I mostly have girls, were denied an education. And so I'm like, come on, you girls get the privilege of getting up, starting your school without any miles and miles and miles of walking, without hiding the fact that you're learning anything. So let's go back to gratitude. Education is a privilege. It's a privilege that our society values. Being able to homeschool is a privilege. I actually have sent some of my kids to some of our hybrid classes on purpose because they decided that I was their attitudes they just couldn't learn from me. And I'm like, you know what? You get to get a different teacher. This being at home with me in high school is a privilege. If you start acting out on me and using me as a punching bag and you can't rein it in, there's an attitude issue here. Or if you're just going to learn better for someone else, we will adjust it. Once again, my other attitude and response towards homeschooling is I am the administrator of this situation, right? My goal is to get you the best education you could possibly get. And if me teaching you is not giving you the best education because you're spending all your time bonking heads with me, then you are more than welcome to go find somebody who will give you that education that you need, those baselines that you need. So, reverse engineering, starting at the end. What kind of character do you want your kids to have? What kind of ethics do you want them to have? And then what kind of education? Are you aiming high? Are you aiming at the level that these kids' potential can get to? I know that's hard for you to know necessarily when you're looking in their sweet little eyes, especially my kids push back so much and make me think they can't handle all the things they can handle. But it's amazing how they rise to the occasion if I push them a little bit higher than they think that they can go. I like to be that person that believes in them. Half the time, they just need a cheerleader to say, I believe in you. You can do this. Walk away. Let them try. Let them fail, let them succeed, but let them understand that you are in their corner to support them and that they have smart, good brains to figure it out. Get them the help they need. If they have a learning disability challenge, get them the help they need. Don't ignore the dyslexia, the dysgraphia, those issues. But the reality is God has given you those kids so you know if there's something a little bit off. Get them tested. Go for it. Like my kids don't have any of those, but we have that in our family. It's not a joke. But the thing is, you're the parent and God gave you the ability to look ahead. And if you need some like guidelines, some measuring sticks of success to say, set those bars of like what makes success. We underestimate, just finished a book by Mark Batterson, but it says, reminding me, we underestimate how much we can get done in 5 years. We overestimate what we can get done in a day, a week, or a month. So play the long game. Think the long game, right? Like, did I hit math 365 times out of the 500 times I tried? Or am I hitting math 400 times out of the 500 times I'm trying? Like, let's up our game just a little bit. Let's rise to the occasion. Let's rise to the occasion in ourselves. We need Jesus to do this. I need Jesus to do this. I do not want to do French, guys. I don't. But the reality is God has assigned me French. So we are going to do it. We're going to do it as to the best of my abilities with Jesus, leaning on him. And I'm going to use it to help my character develop, my daughter's character develop. We're going to grow and we're going to learn a language. We're going to do it because it's good for her. We're going to do it because it's what she asked for. And we're not going to quit partway through because I don't want her to learn that when things get hard, we quit, right? You can make a change at the end of the year, but right now we're not making a change. And I think that's the challenge, right? There's some other stuff. We did change our English this year. That was slightly different. We're not, we're adjusting the way we're learning French so that would make it more, hopefully make the information stick a little closer to the brain. But we're also adjusting a lot of expectations. This child thought that French would be easy, and I don't think learning a language is easy. I think it's hard work. It develops a whole different kinds of muscles in your brains. It's really good for you, but I would not put it in the easy category for me. So therefore, we're not waltzing through any of this, but that's okay because at the end of the day, the character development is really what this is about and the ability to know that we're able to do hard things. I hope that helps you think through. Again, be inspired, be encouraged. Maybe it came off harsh. I'm just trying to be real with you that, they're not going to go above anything. Like the word I was praying with God on Friday, and he said, if you keep taking shortcuts, if you keep going, if I show shortcuts, that is what the kids are going to catch from me, right? But if I'm like, nope, I get out of bed, I do the things, you do the things, we do the things. A lot of my home is done in team. We clean the house, we take a rest, we watch a movie, we play a game. We go out to hang out with friends, we go shopping. You know, I mean, there's a lot of it just as a we. And I think that can be helpful too. You know, you're just trying to like, I'm not asking you to do more than I'm asking myself, right? And I'm not asking you to do more than God is asking us to do. And I think that conviction of the Lord told me to do this really does help us when we get into the middle, and this messy middle, and we're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's like, but what was the word, you know, at your word, I started this journey. So therefore I believe, you know, one of my kids was calling, they're like, I don't think we can do this anymore. And I said, you felt like the Lord told you to do this. When did he change his mind? Did he give you a new word that said to quit? If he didn't, then he is going to gift you and anoint you to be able to do this. So we're going to go back to faith. We're going to ask him for help. We're going to see him show up. We're going to watch him be faithful and good the way he is. And that is probably more important than anything that you're feeling like you're struggling with right now, is to know that God is there, ever-present help in time of trouble, able to quickly, that he runs to the brokenhearted, that he is close to those who are full of sorrow. He gets us out of the miry pit. He gets us out of the clay, sets our feet upon a rock. He establishes his glory. And so that's what we want to do with the kids. In season, out of season, being faithful, planting those seeds, watering the seeds with prayer, watching the Lord show up and do what the Lord does. So yes, consider when you're working, like even this year, set yourself a goal. What do I want to see at the end of this month? What do I want to see at the end of 6 months? What do I want to see at the end of the year? But also, what do I want to see at the end of this school when they walk out of here and they're capable? Is it fixing a car? Not my goal, but maybe that's your goal. Is it being able to make a loaf of bread from scratch? Is it be able to plant a garden? Is it to be able to plan dinner for a family of whatever size family you have? And is it to be able to go to the store and buy all those ingredients, make those ingredients? Is it be able to make a phone call? Can they schedule their own doctor's appointment? You know, get some real practical here. There's some real missing steps to some of the stuff that I realized, like, we didn't teach FY Z information. And so now, you know, that doesn't mean they can't learn it on their own. There's a lot of stuff, you know, I didn't try to teach every single instrument because they can go learn some of those on their own, but we did try to teach them how to practice an instrument, right? So hope that was helpful. Hope you're having a great day. Hope is encouraging, and we will see you soon. We love homeschooling. We love homeschooling families, and this channel is nothing more than me trying to share what I've learned, because YouTube has been so helpful for me to be able to do this journey, and I just want to give back. So if you like, subscribe, share with a friend who needs encouragement, who's questioning. We will talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.